Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Alright, over here in America for Valentine's Day, and what Valentine's gift do you get for a homesteading girl? A cast iron skillet, of course. Now this has seen some better days. As you can see, it's dirty on the inside. There's an ant that's crawled into it. It's dirty on the inside, it's got crust and that sort of thing going with it. On the outside, where we've had boil over and that sort of thing, we've got carbonisation, bit of gunk that will scrape off. It's pretty dirty, so we're going to do a full restoration on it. So there's a couple of ways of doing it. When it's this dirty, there's not a lot of ways of doing it. What I'm gonna do is burn it and clean it off by burning. You can also do a self-clean on an oven. Probably not the best if it's this dirty because it's going to smoke the house out. And of course there's always the oven cleaner option. Oven cleaner, I'm going to avoid it if I can. Lots of caustic elements, so I'm going to avoid it if I can, and we'll just see how we go with the burning. Terry had some concrete blocks sitting around, so I've thrown them together and made a little fire pit. And just there is the blower I've put together. That's going towards the forge I'm making for James. So we will use it for this one to increase the fire. I don't have a lot of wood to get it done with, and you want to have some fairly high temperatures. Some of this is pretty punky wood, so having the air burner going with it will help immensely. As you can see, it's not all sealed and tight and that sort of thing. That's not what we're after. Injecting extra air into it will just make it burn hotter. I've closed down the top a bit. This one goes back in over. Just keeps all the heat coming upwards, helps to keep some of the heat in there, and just make it that little bit warmer, which is going to help. All right, well, let's get a fire set in it. We've burnt down to a bed of coals from the initial fire, so it is time for it to go in. Okay, our worst carbonation's on that side, so that's where I want most of the heat. So I'm going to put it in there upside down. Okay, now we're just going to drop some kindling down around that. Start on some of that bigger wood. And by letting it die down, the coals means I can put my hands in here and get everything loaded up. Alright, and now we're going to turn on the heat. There we go. There's our flames coming off. Alright, so I'll just keep loading this up as we go along. Okay, not sure if you can see it in there, but the actual pan itself is red, which means we've got it well up to temperature, and we should have got all the carbonisation off. It's been about 30 minutes in there at this stage, so what I'm going to do is just let the fire burn down. Let that pan cool down because I don't want to bring it red hot out into the open air. So now we're a fair bit cooler, let's pull it out. Alright, everything's scraping off nicely. So from here, we're just going to scrub it clean. Okay, we're a little bit rough on the inside. Oh, that's fine. You know, an older piece gets a bit rough. So I'm just going to clean that up and smooth it off. As you can see, this is a machine bottom. It's nice and flat on the bottom, hasn't got the texture on it as you get with new cast ironware. So I'm just going to use a grinder with a really light pad on it and clean off the inside. But first we'll give the outside a scrub and then move on to the grinder. Once it's scrubbed up, come up, absolute treat. We can now see it's an 8-inch skillet, and I think by the marking, what I've been told, this is a 3-notch lodge pan. So come up absolutely beautiful. We do have a little bit of pitting, a little bit of scrape mark and that sort of thing on the inside, which I'm going to try and clean up with the grinder. Now I've taken the guard off for this bit, just because it's easy to get in there without the guard. Okay, now I've taken some of that surface off. You can see the scratches a bit clearer and the pitting. So yeah, we're just trying to get as much of that off as we can. I'm just starting with a rough 40 grit, and then I'll work my way through to a finer grit as I go. But yeah, as much as I can, I want to try and get the scratches and that out. All right, we are starting to get on the dark side. As you can see, all nice and cleaned up in the center. We do still have some scratches and some pitting left, and it's an old piece of iron. I don't want to cut that much steel out that's going to go away completely. But we have a nice smooth surface up to 400 grit that once we season it, that is going to be a completely non-stick surface. So there we go. Now some people would say you don't grind it. If you don't want to grind it, don't grind it. The smoother the surface finish, the more non-stick it's going to be. Even with the seasoning on it, you're not going to get completely non-stick if you've got a rough surface. So by grinding it down to the 400 grit, we're going to have a smoother surface. It's going to be more non-stick. The older pieces of cast iron used to come with a machine bottom, which helped to make it non-stick. More modern cast iron comes with a rougher texture on it, which makes it not as non-stick. All right, I'm going to go clean this up again because it's got this dust all through it, same as I've got all over me. So we'll clean it up again and then we'll start the seasoning process. So it's preheated in the oven. It's 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190, I think, Celsius. I'll need to check on that. Right, we're just going to splash a bit of vegetable oil in there. Doesn't matter exactly what oil, you can use your oil of choice when seasoning. Just going to use some paper towel, and we need to cover everything, including our handle. Gonna wipe it dry when we're done. We want that oil coat, but we don't want a wet bunch of oil in there. You can see that starting to darken just with the heat. All right, so we go back in the oven, and that goes in there for another half hour. And we come out and give it another coat. All right, half an hour done. And we go for the second coat. Alright, back in we go for another half hour. Okay, there we go after the second seasoning. I'm ramping the temperature up as we go. That was at 400. Next one I'll do at 425. As you can see, developing a deeper color with each and every treatment as we're building up the layers. There we go, we are all seasoned up. I'm just gonna put it back in the oven, let it cool down with the oven, just so that it finishes the process. It's nice and slick, it's not sticky or anything like that, which means all the oil has polymerized. So we are all finished with the seasoning. Thank you very much everyone for watching, and bye for now.